Okay, so we're going to have a demonstration here now that's going to go over warp and manual text options. Okay, and this is for Photoshop. So first of all, we're going to explore some of the warp options. So first of all, I'm going to click on my type layer here, and we're going to type in some text. I'm just going to create a title here. Let's call it travel tours. And I'm just going to increase the size of this here now. Let's go 60. And I'm just going to mimic what I had there yesterday. So using this font. And bold for that part. And I'll just go with a blue here for now. So just some text in there right now as a placeholder. Okay. So first of all, let's explore some of the warp options. So to do this, first of all, I want to highlight my text, and then we're going to click on the warp option, which is right here. Okay. So when I hover over this, and it's not giving me the display, this is the warp. These are the warp text options. So I click in here, it'll say warp text. By default, there's none selected. Okay. So let's go over some of these. If I click here, it'll drop down to a whole bunch of options here. Let's try arc. So by default here, as you can see, arc will arc your text. Okay. Right here, the bend option, this will determine how much of an arc your text has. If you get into the minus digits, it arcs in the opposite direction, going from top to bottom vertically. Okay. So let's say that if we wanted it to be arced just like that, I'll click OK, and then our text would be warped. Okay. Opposite to that, if I wanted to take that off, I could highlight again, go into warp text, and I could either take this number down, or I could simply go none, and it will take it back to what it originally was. Click OK, and notice if there is warp on your text, this symbol will show up over here on your text layer. Okay, let's try that again. So I'm already highlighted, back in the text effects. Let's try a different one here, arc lower. Notice with arc lower here, guys, that it arcs and arcs a particular portion of your text. It kind of bubbles your text in a certain way. It kind of makes a certain part of your text thicker in proportion to the rest of the text. Okay, so let's play around with a few of these options. And let's leave it like that. Click OK. Notice that the bend in the text icon here shows up to represent the warp text. Okay. And that's how it would look. Let's try another option here. Go back into warp text. And let's go with arc upper. That's how it would look there. Of course, we want the middle of that to be really thick. We could go like so. Now, one thing I'll show you here, and this is an option that you have on all warp text options, is that you can add horizontal distortion. Okay, like so. So of course, this is very helpful if you're trying to match an angle of a particular graphic. You can use this with a combination of other effects to really mold your text to a particular shape that you want to accomplish. Additionally, we can also add vertical distortion, like so. Okay. Now, if you use this in combination with the bend, really affect how it can really make your text look. For example, right now you can see the text looks twisted. Okay, and hit the selection tool. So yeah, it looks like your text has quite the twist in it. It gives it a more of a 3D dimension, really. And let's try something else. Go back to none. Takes it right back to what it was normally. Let's try bulge. As you can see with this one, it adds thickness to the top and the bottom at the same time. And let's make this smaller. Something like this. Vertical distortion. And of course you can set these values just by clicking on your keyboard as well. 0. Horizontal distortion. There we go. As you can see, the last part of the logo here is tailing off, right? And you could also say tapering off. And let's see here. Let's try another option. Let's go back to none first to reset. Flag. As you can see, it converts your text into more of a flag type of layout. You can make quite the bend there. 100 is the max. Usually when you're using these though, you want to use something that's subtle. Depending on your concept, what your concept requires. But generally speaking, you'll definitely have we use these in subtle fashions. Like for example, just a small flag bend in there. Click OK, and you can notice it kind of bends a little bit, but it's nothing too drastic. Okay. Let's try another option here. Back to our warp text. Let's see, there's another one that I really have used quite a bit. The arc and the flag I've used quite a bit in the past. There's also inflate. Notice how it rounds the corners of your actual text. And many of these options too, click OK there, gives it kind of a different feel. Something like that could also be used for possibly water. It almost feels like it's you're looking through water at the text. Just something that I see there. And let's try something else. Go back to none here. Let's try one more. And of course, you guys can play around with these to get experience with them. There's also one called fisheye here, which kind of bulges the very center of this text. You can alter that whichever way you want to here. You can also go opposite. It gives it a kind of a cool look there. Notice that the text is kind of capsizing into itself, really. Give it a very unique look for depending on the strategy, right? Could even see a couple of lines here going from thick to thin in the middle, thick to thin in the middle, and that could really help this strategy along of using this strategy here for the warp. Which one did we use? We used strategy for the fisheye here. Okay, and let's go back to none. So you can play around with those as well to get experience with those. Moving on here now, we're going to go into something I call water reflection. Okay. To do this, I'm actually going to have it most effective. I'm actually going to use all caps text. Now I can recreate this to having all caps, but I'm just going to show you a quick way that you can do this as well. I'm going to go open up window here, open up my character palette. Inside the character palette, we're not going to go over the specifics of the character palette right now, but one option I will show you is that if we click the TT here, this is for all caps. Okay, we click here, it will automatically make all of your text uppercase. Okay, just 1 second. So that's a quick, efficient option if you need all your text to be in all caps right away. You can use your all caps. One drawback to this, though, sometimes is you might forget that you have the all caps on there, and then it might affect how your formatting looks later on. If you, for example, if you maybe don't remember why your text is still in all caps, sometimes it's not always something that comes to you right away. But always be wary if you use the all caps option that you do need to take it off if you need to recreate text in a regular format. Okay, so let's leave that at all caps here. Let's put that in the middle. I think in this case I'll have a space there just because of the all caps. Let's see here. So in regards to the water reflection, okay, this is generally a manual effect that I've promoted over the years, and this is how we do it. So first of all, the goal here is to create a reflection of this text that kind of has a feel where it could be have the visual look that's actually in water. Okay, so here's how we do it. First thing that we do is we duplicate this layer. I'm going to have the copy underneath the original. And I'm going to go to Edit, Transform, and I'm going to flip vertical. And the copy now, I'm going to move down below, like so. Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to add a gradient overlay to this. Okay. So double click, gradient overlay, and for this type of style, just give me 1 second. I'm going to stay inside basics here. I'm going to go from a color to transparent. Okay, this one would stand for a color to transparent, and our color is actually going to be white. We're going to leave our transparent as the blue from the original layer, but the red here is actually going to change to white. And click these nodes, white, and of course we have to change the other side as well, like so. And I'm just going to move this in a little bit more. Something like that. Now what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to bring the opacity down of that layer. Something like, say something like that. So as you can see now, that the Travel Up Tours has a very obvious reflection. Okay, so as you can see, there's a fall off, what they would call a drop off of color and distinction of that layer through this copy here. We purposely did that. So this could stand as a water reflection. Now, if we wanted to take this one step further, what we could do is we could actually add a blur to this layer. Okay. So to do that now, I'm just going to click on that layer, that copy, and go to Filter. We're going to go Blur, and there's a couple different ways you can go with this. I'm going to go with a motion. Let's go with a motion blur. Now, whenever you try to place an effect onto text, you need to rasterize it. Okay. Basically, what we mean by rasterizing is that we're converting text into an actual graphic. Okay, so that's the whole concept behind rasterizing, is that we're converting it into a graphic format. So we're going to rasterize, and we can determine how blurry it's going to look or not. So I think you just need a subtle blur on this. Like so. So something like this would stand for maybe water that is not still. Okay, that would be the concept behind this. Don't really like this effect for this particular example, but that's how you would do it if you needed to add, say, water that was more not basically water that wasn't still. Okay, so let's undo that. Let's try a different effect for this, just to add to this. What else could we use there? There's different blurs that we could use. I'm going to try radial blur just to see how this looks. I don't think radial blur will capture the effect we're looking for, though. Now, and let's redo that. Filter and blur and radial blur and rasterize. I'm just going to take the amount down here. Not as effective as the original. So in this case, we do have that reflection, but we still have quite a bit of detail left in the reflection. So that would be the basis for how we would do that. Another effect here that we're going to show, and it would be a manual effect, is how we could create text and use it as a background. Okay, so I'm just going to get rid of this layer here. And again, this is going to involve creating a duplicate of this as well again. And I'm just going to right click and duplicate layer. Drag this down. Now I could increase, I want to make this layer bigger, so I could increase the size. 60, let's say I change it to 300. And tab. Notice it's quite a bit bigger. Okay. This is a strategy sometimes that I use when I'm looking to fill space. It's always, you know, something that will go with your topic depending on where you place it. So something like that, maybe, you know, if I was really need to play around with just the wording, I could do this. I could duplicate this now, have a different copy of it. I could fade this out. Now, you know, take this in perspective, though. It will depend on what your topic is and where, you know, placement is going to be, you know, is going to need to align with what you're doing, basically. Let's try another thing here now, too. I could do something like this. I could add a background piece. Like so. And I'm just going to put a color overlay on this of that blue. And then, of course, what would be the next step? I would make that text white, so we have contrast. I'm just going to move this below here. I believe it's this copy, and change that to white. So just another strategy, right? And what part of the word, especially when you have text like this where it does extend off the screen, it's always what part of the text you want to show is going to be something that gives the most visual clues of what this is. Okay, Trav and tours would probably be most effective there. And move this down. And maybe these words could actually touch that border, like so. That could be an idea as well. Okay, So like I said, I usually use this as a space filler. Also too, if the actual words themselves have a particular strong meaning, then I would use this effect as well. Maybe if we're trying to, for example, promote an artist, a celebrity, etc., we could use this for the first and last name as well. Okay, a couple different ideas of why we would use this strategy. Let's just kind of finalize this a little bit here. What another strategy for this could be. Let's say this is, for example, Chris. Let's just call this Smith. And I'll make the first name smaller than the last name. You'll see strategies like this also too in movie titles. Okay, so change this to end movie credits, etc. I'm gonna change this to bold. Change the first name to regular. Something like that. We could do the same thing here where this is Chris. I have some text over here that I need to get rid of. And it's still over there. And of course, just because it's off screen doesn't mean it's not there, right? And Smith. And see where that is. Now, if you ever have something that's off screen and you can't find it, the quickest way to find something, rather than searching for it, is go Command T. When you go Command T, you zoom out, it will show you where it is. See that? This is a quick way to find something that's off screen that you need to bring back on screen. And I'll tell you that you can spend quite a bit of time searching for something that you can't see, okay? So Command T, click on the layer, Command T, quickest way to find something that's not easily found, basically. Now I'm just going to move that over and zoom back in and click on the check mark here. And let's kind of move this back into what we had before. Something like that. So as you can see, we're just using the name itself as a background element. Okay, and it depends on what scenario you need it for. But if you ever get into one of the situations where you have room to fill, this could be a good strategy of filling that space and still blending with your overall concept. Okay, so that was a quick demonstration here on warp text and manual text effects. Thanks.